Some of you will get that. That's my shoe, right, Ahmed? We probably have more non-church people listening today than we have people in church today. So for those of you guys listening, I'm going to be very blunt, very honest. My heart for you is that you open your heart long enough for Jesus to put his foot in it so he can promote you from where you are to to what he really has for you. Ronnie, I got it. We're gonna be okay. I got it. Now, Lord Jesus, you're the best. Let's go. I want everybody in this house right now to do this with me together. All things, no, start with me, do it with me. All things work together for good to them that love God, who are the called according to his purpose. Now, I got to share this word real quick. Now, I got to do a little teaching before I get into my message. Today is going to be a parable. Now, sometimes we need a parable. My heart is to be where I was before all this COVID happened. You guys remember I said when the plane takes off? Well, guess what? The plane took off. I had no idea what I was saying, but the plane took off. I'll leave that alone. But today's going to be a parable of what God showed me. Because, see, the thing is about a parable, God has to be able to relate to us. We don't understand all things as we ought to understand them. So for him to communicate effectively, he has to speak through things we can easily relate to. That's what a parable is. See, only the Word is powerful. It's sharper than any two-edged sword, able to divide asunder, even from soul, from spirit. It's the only thing that is going to be able to guide you right. So my heart is to be in the Word. And that is what it's always going to be. It's going to be the Word. I don't like messages. I don't like parables. I like movies, but that's just for fun. Okay? But today, I have to tell a parable so everybody can understand. But first, we're going to lay out some understanding about a couple of different quick things. And if you're wondering why this happened to us, all this COVID stuff, why we just got beat down, it's very simple. It's not even in my head to talk about it. But I'll mention it because we've been through a lot. This is why. This is why it happened. You want to know why? He loves this house. And here's the scripture for it. Mark 9. He comes back from the mountain, verse 11. He must suffer, and must be set at nothing. Well, I felt like nothing. I'm back, baby, and so are you. So are you. This is what Brother Dale said about the house. Listen to this, the mountain goat. Christ-like fellowship, not robbed, not unjustly judged, fortunately being shaped in the potter's tender hands, shaping the character of Christ. You know what the character of Christ is? Simple. Love him with all your heart and love your brethren the same. One of the things that happened to me, I don't even have my clock here. I'm trusting the Lord completely. I promised the people online I'll get everybody out before kickoff. So we'll see how that works. I get it. I got some stuff to pay attention to as well, so I want to see the games. So we'll do our best. But one of the things I realized, I now know why Jesus had to go to the mountain to pray, because there's too much dust in the valley. And I also know why David, the same David who slew Goliath with one sling, looked at that sword and said, that's what I need to keep me safe, because there's none like it. You know why? Because he started spending more time with people than sheep. But here's what I realized when I came down from, like I said, like some of you guys have been in contact with me. There's thousands of people praying for me. It's the only reason why I'm here. I went interstellar for a couple of days there. It was pretty crazy. So I've been up some mountain, and I realized that you can't hear the voice in the mountain, in the valley. You can't. It's not your fault. And let me just get this straight. I was not alone in the mountain. It's the only reason why I'm still here. One made it because all loved him. Now, a lot of you called me up, and I understand, because see, we're in the valley. Everything's, I hope you're doing good. I'm just encouraging you. I'm like, brother, sister, I can't explain it to you. This is the only thing I feel. Peace and joy. If I'm lying, I'm dying, right? Remember that? Peace and joy. I was never scared. I was sad because I thought I might die and my kids were going to be alone. That sucked. But it's peace and joy, and that's the Lord. So I'm going to speak, like I said earlier, I'm going to bring some tidings from the hill of the Lord, and they've never been different. But now a people is waking up to what God is really saying. So here's the teaching part. We're going to go real quick. You guys are familiar with the number 20, yes? 20 is the number of expectation. I shared on that in New Year's Eve 2019. I remember in 2019 saying, my God, I don't know if this is going to be, because 20 is a number of a season. It's a number of a season, you'll see. It's a number of expectations, the number of waiting. I remember saying, I don't know if it's going to be a good season or a bad season. I just know it's going to be a season. Now, here's some information that Brother Bullinger gives us to kind of glean on. So 20 is one short of 21. That is to say, there's threefold 7, right? That signifies divine completion as regards to spiritual perfection, 7. Then 20 being one short of 21, it would signify expectancy. 20 years Jacob waited to get his possession and his wives. 20 years Israel waited for a deliverer from Jabin's oppression. 20 years waited for deliverance through Samson. 20 years the Ark of the Covenant waited at Karjath-Jearim. 20 years Solomon waiting for the completion of the 2 houses. 20 years Jerusalem waited between its capture and destruction. And 20 years Jeremiah prophesied concerning it. 20 dreams are recorded in the Bible. I'm not going to go through with them, but just suffice it to say, 20 is the number of expectation, and 20 is the number of season. It's important to establish that when we get into the parable of what God really did with us. Here's the bottom line. We're finishing a dreadful but fruitful season. It's now time to climb. Now, I have a warning for the house. And it's more like, hey, watch out, right? There's a car coming. It's not a big warning because these are precious people. But we've been through a lot, and we've also lived a long time. And we have to be careful of the spirit of Barzillai. For those of you who don't know who Barzillai is, Barzillai, he's the man that when David was oppressed by his son Absalom, Barzillai fed the king. Not just the king, the kingdom. He provided for the king. Oh, man. All the history, all the elders, everything that happened in the church going through oppression, Barzillai provided for the king. But the problem with Barzillai, on the way back, the king was moved, and he bid him to come to Jerusalem. And Barzillai said, I'm too old, I'm paraphrasing. I'm too rich. I'm going to stay here. Take my nephew. He'll enjoy it, like Brother Varner used to say. And here's the part that he missed. When the king bids you to come to Jerusalem, it's better than anything you've ever experienced in your life. Doesn't matter what you have to give up. Doesn't matter how rich you are. Doesn't matter how old you are. Here's a scripture. It's better to wait on the Lord. This is not a scripture, it's a note. It's better to wait on the Lord than be young and be seasoned and well equipped. Being young, it's better to wait on the Lord than be young. And being seasoned and well equipped is no excuse for leaning on your own understanding. Just hear that. These are just notes before we get into it. Isaiah 40:30. Even the youth shall faint and be weary, and the young men shall utterly fail. But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint. It has nothing to do with how old you are. Barzillai, you're being invited to the king's house. Don't make the same mistake again. Barzillai is not a divisive spirit. It's a stalling spirit. So don't go back. Don't compare what God has done in the past. What he's doing now is better and greater than anything we've ever experienced before. Here's a theme scripture for everything I'm doing. And most of you love this scripture. Joshua 5:13. And it came to pass when Joshua was by Jericho that he lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, there stood a man over against him with his sword drawn in his hand. And Joshua went unto him and said unto him, Art thou for us, or for our adversaries? And he said, Nay, but as a captain of the host of the Lord I am now come. And Joshua fell on his face to the earth and did worship, and said unto him, What says my Lord unto his servant? And the captain of the Lord's host said unto Joshua, Loose thy shoe off thy foot, for the place wherein thou stands is holy. And Joshua did so. I think the Lord is... No. Let me check that. I apologize, Lord. This carnal thinking. The Spirit of God is breaking down the walls that the church has built over the years to keep God's people compartmentalized like cattle. It's over. Church is inside your heart. It's not about where you go to church, it's about how faithful your heart is. In other words, what will you keep from him? That's the real question. What are you going to keep from him? Because you can come to church and celebrate and worship. But what are you keeping from him? Mark 9. All things are possible to them who believe. Lord, I believe. Help you, my unbelief. That's the part that he has to get rid of to get the son where he needs to be. And you can't hide that. It don't matter what church you go to. It would just be like Dale says, you lived and died, he lived and died, he lived and died, he lived and died. But God's moving. Church is inside your heart. There's only one Spirit because there's only one name given to men under heaven. John 4:24, God is a Spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. What, you really care what we put on that wall? On that plaque? And don't mock. Listen, God is not mocked, right? Where God placed you, you'll know, and stay there. All the people I asked to watch me today, I said, you better go to your church and you worship with your people, and if you have time, make sure you watch this. You don't want to miss this. God is breaking down the walls. See, our problem is we judge. This is what I was telling you yesterday. We think God thinks and judges like we do. So we compare everything to how we think. Watch this. This is crazy. I got this the other day. Controversial. I don't care. I'm free. Because I don't even care if I die. I don't even care. Neither death nor life can separate us from the love of God. Okay? Double for trouble. Watch this scripture. 2 Corinthians 10. It says that he who gives a Christian a drink of water will in no wise lose their reward. And in Proverbs it said that the favor of the Lord, okay, when God blesses, he adds no trouble therewith. So I got a question for you. If you get a drink of water because you're a Christian from an unbeliever, he's not going to hell. Ooh, I know, scary. What am I talking about? See, that's our problem in the church. We're so scared because our whole focus is to get out of hell. Well, let me get you something. Let me get you something. Look how easy that is. Let me give you something with this. Let's say you get out of hell. That's great. That's great. Are you going to be a homeless person the rest of your life? You like that life? And this is how we think. We diminish God through this carnality, this cartoon that goes on, where God's grace is so powerful. Or we start thinking about, oh, what did we do wrong for Christ Life Fellowship to go through all this stuff? Right? Like we need to atone for something. Like Jesus, get back on that cross. He ain't going back on that cross. It's over. You know, like Brother Varner used to say, save the stamp. Trust me. Trust me, I'm right. Because God is moving. He's not afraid. Hell, the gates of hell cannot touch him. You like quoting that scripture? It's real. See, getting out of hell is great. I don't want to go to hell. Well, guess what? God is so far away from hell, and what he wants to do in a people, we ought not to even have it in this mind. All right, now, my journey through the shadows. Now, if you know me, my heart would be to stand here and expound on, what? Know ye not your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost. That's where my heart's at. Because remember, the same reason. The Word is the only reason, the only thing that can separate junk from gold. And so we need the Word. We don't need another message. We need the Word to be expounded so God's people can hear it. Now watch this. Evangelism. This church has been dinged for decades. We're not doing enough outreach. Watch. We got to start doing this. We got to start doing that. Who's the focus on? We. You know what evangelism is like? You work the character God works in your life, it will be like Noah's Ark. I've been going around, I get swarmed by people. I can't help it. I see a guy at AutoZone. I hope he's listening. He goes, I overhear him say something. He comes up to the thing and says, hey, what's going on in your life? He goes, I had a heart attack 2 weeks ago. They stuck 2 tubes down my side. I said, God. So I said, did they put you under? Because they didn't put me under. He's like, no, they didn't put me under because it was so urgent. They just stabbed me. I said, Lord, thank you for that. Humble me, right? I think here I am, I'm going through pain. This dude is going through some real pain. Another guy at a dealership, they won't leave me alone. Jason, I hope you're listening. To all the Leah and Northampton family, if you're listening, you guys are amazing. I love you. But they come over. This guy won't leave me alone. Then he drops it on me. My wife died a year and a half ago from brain cancer. My biggest fear. I grabbed him. We prayed together. I said, double for trouble. Evangelism. I didn't do nothing. I don't want anything. I don't want nothing. I just want him. It's not that hard. Because here's why evangelism, real evangelism works. It's this. Learn this. This is super simple. It's the most important. It's the coolest thing. His sheep hear his voice. They hear his voice. If we articulate the word, that's why the word, it's not our messages. If we articulate the word, his sheep will hear his voice. Because you know why? Here's the secret nobody really focuses on. Whatever you say, whatever debate is out there, right? Remember when Jesus came down that mountain of transfiguration? Do you remember what the first thing that was going on there? There was debate. The Pharisees were arguing with the disciples. Meanwhile, this demon was there. And I think it was the demon. Because the Lord said, this one, you have to give everything for him to come out. You remember that part? There was a great debate. And in all this great debate, hang on a second. Lost my train of thought. Oh, it's very simple. This is all I meant to say. All this debate's going on. Who's right, who's wrong. But we forget one thing that we should never forget. God made man in his image and his likeness. And whatever out there has marred that image, God doesn't care. He made man in his image and his likeness. And he will see it through. And his sheep hear his voice. So, I hope my story touches hearts. What God is saying is undeniable. He's an awesome Father, and we are all his children, regardless of religion, gender, or sexual orientation, etc., whatever fits your bill. He desires that we all understand. That's 2 Peter 3:9. He doesn't want us to stay in our ways. Well, again, God is not mocked. Pick your poison if you want. You'll get sick. But what God has, Brother David Wilkerson used to say it this way: don't try to take a bone from a dog. It will hurt you. Just give him a piece of steak. But you got to believe. He doesn't want us to stay in our ways. He wants us to release into his fullness. So the journey. Now I have to be very disciplined, Ronnie. I have to trust the Lord here. Okay, this is the part where I'm going to go off script. I'm going to just tell the story and trust God that he lets me remember everything. So my story starts on December 13, 2019. I got very sick. As you know, I never miss church. I don't care how sick I am. But that day I told my wife, I said, baby, I'm so sick. I can't go to church because I don't want anybody to have this. I don't know if it was COVID or not. I thought it was maybe COVID after the battle. It's not important. What's important is I got incredibly sick, and I prayed the next couple of days. I said, Lord, you got to keep this from my family. And he did. So I took that as a token that God is my antidote against COVID-19. I took that provision that God was the antidote against COVID-19. So when the mandates came out, there was nothing I could do. Now, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I love the vaccines. I've been shut up since I was a kid. It's great. Because, see, our carnal thinking, I was talking to Ronnie, this thing has become so political. But what we don't understand, that there's crap in our food that we eat every day. We just don't think about it. Right? This whole, like, the way Brother Dale says it, it blessed my heart. Because I don't even like Facebook and YouTube, right, Timmy? I don't even like it. I don't even like it. But the reality is, this is the reality. God will destroy the belly and the meats. He has something better. So this whole experience, this whole life, is just a tree of knowledge of good and evil that we're not supposed to eat from. He gave us the tree of life. Now, all right. So I'm thinking, I'm convinced. I'd die for it. I'd die for it. Forget my job. Who cares? I'd die for it. That God's my antidote. So when the mandates came out, I said, I used Romans 14 as my baseline, right? If it's against your consciousness, it's sin. And I applied for a religious exemption. And so this was November 1st, and I'm talking to my boss. He's a beautiful man. He blessed me so much through this whole thing. And we were just talking, I'm crying, and he's emotional. He's like, and he goes, is there anything that could change your mind? And I said, there's only one person that can change my mind. Only one person. And then a few days after that, and I'll come back, my old boss calls me, and he does the same thing. What are you doing, man? Is there anything that can change your mind? And Liz had to correct me what I actually said, and this is what I told him. I said, God is going to have to come down to my house, and he's going to have to tell me himself. That's the only way. So that was November 1st. On November 2nd, my religious exemption got denied. Before I could even process that information, I started experiencing what I now know was COVID-19. On the 4th, I got really sick. I called out of work. On the 6th, I knew it was COVID because I took the test. The next 11 days, so those 11 days between the 6th to the 17th, were bad. I ate nothing but crackers, Tylenol, and ibuprofen. I was basically a wet rag on the couch. I couldn't do anything. I got up one day, 2 days before I went to the hospital. I said, I got to do something for my wife. Because my wife has COVID. She gives herself no credit. We're all sick. She's taking care of everybody. I'm crying because I'm like, Lord, please don't let her get this sick. So I said, I'm going to be tough. I'm going to be like Uncle Tim. I'm going to be like my brother Tim. That's right. Because he's not going to lay down for anybody. That almost killed me, by the way, wanting to be like Uncle Tim. But I tried anyway. So I said, I'm going to take the recycling out. So it probably took me about 20 minutes. Like The Walking Dead, you know. But I got it in the box, and I'm like, what are you doing? You're a disaster. So on the morning of going from the 16th to the 17th, I'm laying in bed, and I feel like somebody's squeezing my lungs. And you guys have had COVID. You probably understand what I'm saying. And so I'm laying there, and I'm going. Liz is like, I'm calling the ambulance. I'm like, baby, no. Tylenol stopped working. Ibuprofen stopped working. I'm just straight up pain, 103. By the way, I ran 102. Baby, am I right? I ran 102 the whole time for 11 days, which for me is really bad. I don't do so well with fever. I don't do well with 99. It wipes me out. I lay on the couch. 102 for me, bad. So she said, I'm calling the ambulance. I'm, no, baby, we got to trust the Lord. I'm going to make it through the night, and then you can take me to the hospital. Somehow made it through the night. We got there at 11:30. And I remember the first thing, now dialing back a little bit, on about the 7th or 8th, when I started to really feel the power of this wickedness, I had this thought. If Fanny Man knows anything, thinks he knows anything, 2 Corinthians 8, I believe, he doesn't know anything as he ought to know. Yeah. And I thought about it, my God, they can do so much worse. And I said, Lord, vaccine or no vaccine, if you don't help us, it's over. So I'm going to trust you with everything. So correct me, teach me, talk to me. So I get to the hospital, you know. I don't know what oxygen they measured, but they let me through and they put me in this, again, Walking Dead hallway with flickering lights. And I had my coat. I'm laying like this because I'm underneath the vent, and I'm like, for the love of everything, it is not hot here, you know. And this thing's just brutal. Just I'll flush you down, cool you off, you little. So I'm sitting there just shivering, right? And I overheard them saying there's a 24-hour wait for COVID. So I said, don't care, don't bother me. I'm going to be sitting here a while. We can do it. Like I said, Uncle Tim style. I don't care. That's what he'd do. So I'm just sitting here. And then ultimately, and this girl's puking next to me. It was nuts, right? And then the PA comes out, first they took my x-ray. They say, go like this, take a deep breath. I took a deep breath. It was like the 300 movie, like I shot with 1,000 arrows. You know it, Ma, right? You know what that feels like. So I'm like, this is not good. Not good. I don't like it. So I went back. They put me back in my chair. About another hour, PA comes in, plugs me one of them oxygen sensors. Face goes pale. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, your oxygen is in brain damage territory. You're in the 80s. I'm like, oh, okay. My wife's a nurse, but I don't know what that means. Like, I'm just grinding it out, you know. So, anyways, long story short, they put me in a bed. They started going to work on me, and that night I got my room. By the way, nobody's getting a room. So you guys are praying for me, and God is like dominoes getting all this stuff happen. Now, it's one thing for me to say that to encourage you guys. It's another thing for me to know it. Now, whether you know it or not is up to you, but I'm just telling you, I know what happened. I could feel the prayers of God's people. I could feel it. I was describing it to Dale. This is what I was saying. I'm like, Dale, he's like, how do you feel today, Dale? I can't explain it to you. The best image I can give you is I am in that little float in a lazy river. And I'm just basking. And I know what I'm floating on. What else do you want? My body's broken. I get it. I'm fine. But I'm telling you, I miss my family like crazy, crying about that. But my spirit's soaring. That's not me. I didn't do that. You don't go to the gym for that. That's Christ. Rejoice. Brother Steve, thank you for this. The plan is working. He's unveiling his man. So this guy, this Turkish doctor comes in, he goes, and I'm sitting, this is still in the emergency room. He looks me over, he's got this funny cap on. He goes, okay, you have COVID. I'm like, wow, I knew that. I mean, what do we do about it? Yeah. So I got my room that day, and for the first time in 2 weeks, I go to the nurse, I'm like, can I just get a sandwich? She brings me this wet ham and cheese sandwich with nothing on it. I sucked it down like you wouldn't believe. And so the next couple of days, the doctor parade, and they're like, all right, so I'm like, can I go home? Because, fill me up with fluid. I'm Uncle Tim. I got to get out of here, right? So he goes, and the guy goes like this. He goes, he's doctor from Saudi Arabia. He goes, your oxygen was in brain damage territory. You're not going home for a little while. And that night I remember thinking, going, whew, this is actually really bad. And the fear tries to creep in. I'm like, no. I really don't have anything in my life that I'm clinging on to that hard. The only part that bothered me is my kids being without me. Right? So anyways, the view in that room was basically nothing. It was staring at this block wall. It was closed in. I had a World War II veteran who was my roommate. I think I may have saved his life. He also had COVID, and he was Phil. He would get out of his bed all the time. The alarm's blasting. These girls are so busy, they can't get to him. So one night, I'm laying down, and I hear this, help, please, I don't know what they're going to do to us. I'm like, I open my eyes, I got oxygen. I got all these sensors. Phil standing over my bed like this. Help, like peeing all over himself, his catheter out. So I rip my thing out. I try to get to him. Right before I get to him, literally, hundredths of a second, he does one of these jobs. And I grabbed him by the shoulders, and I'm crying, right? Because I can feel, like, there's not that many of these guys left. I can feel it. I can feel his presence, okay? Precious people, right? And all the people, and we just live our lives like ignoring this stuff. But these the nurses come in, and they're like, and he's telling them the stories, because when he's actually was up and running, he was a pretty funny guy. You could tell. I mean, he has lots of kids, lots of grandkids. He's just really old, And he was just talking about all this stuff. And he's like, oh, yeah, I got 2 Purple Hearts. And they're like, oh, what's that? And he's like, well, they kept shooting at me. These guys, they don't make him like that no more. So like I was a little emotional, and then I ran out the door, and I'm like, you guys got to get in here and help this guy. So, that was an interesting experience. But ultimately, they let me out of there, and I was happy. I was on steroids. I was really kind of cranked up. Really bad. I mean, I know, you know what I'm saying. It was pretty bad. I joked around. I mean, no joke. Whatever they gave me because of the situation with my lungs, this is what I said. They gave it to me for 7 days. I said, you take that thing for 20, you're dead. You're gone. You're a goner. After 20 days, you're done. So it was bad. The last day I took it was Thanksgiving. That was probably the most normal day. And so I'm starting to feel pretty good. I was with Jeremy and the family. I was having a good time watching football, just hanging out with my father-in-law, my mother-in-law, my babies, and just feeling pretty normal, really. Just kind of like, hey, it's wearing out. We did good, baby, that type of thing. And on Friday, I was at my mother-in-law's and just eating breakfast. Everything's fine. I'm about to leave, go to the store, and I have this, like, Somebody took a sword to my collarbone. 2 seconds later, sword to the other one. I collapse on the floor, and I'm like this, and I'm thinking, oh, and I'm like this. I'm like, oh my God, you guys got to pray for me. I don't know what's going on. Now, it's funny, but they didn't. But again, nobody thought, right, including me, there was anything seriously wrong with me, right? So they're just going about there. Oh, it's just gas, you know, and just cooking food, and I'm like, I was not mad at all. I was in shock. I was like, okay, I don't even have the capacity right now, physical, to deal with that. I'll just explain to them later that is not what's going on, right? Because like, I don't know what this is, but it ain't no gas, right? So I get home. I start popping candy again. Tylenol, ibuprofen, I'm like back on this again. But remember, I just got out of the hospital. So I'm like, they took x-rays, everything's beautiful. The doctor punted me out of there. No big deal, everything's great. So it's gotta be, what I thought it was steroid withdrawal. Because those things were so nasty, I thought that's gotta be all it is, right? So I write it out that day, once in a while, I go, yeah. Okay, so I'm doing it all day long. Then 11 o'clock comes, Liz has to work that night. I lay down in bed, and I kid you not, it's the worst pain I've ever felt in my life. I played football with broken, I wasn't very good at football, but I played football with broken bones. I ran track with high ankle sprain and qualified for the state championship, even though I couldn't put my foot on the ground before the race, right? Almost Uncle Tim level. But I'm telling you, that pain, give it to me all day long compared to what I felt that night. I laid down on the bed, and I literally couldn't stop screaming. I was screaming in agony. I couldn't stop. I couldn't get away from it. The girls woke up. The one blessing that came out of it, they prayed with me. I never heard my kids pray out loud, but they did that day. Blessed my heart, got me all emotional, got me through the next hour. I sat up all night. I've never been that awake in my life. I was just staring, reading, praying, watching old Super Bowls. Those cheered me up because a lot of them ended well, and I like them. I watched the Atlanta one, and I watched the Seattle Seahawks one, the best ones. So morning comes, and we're praying with Liz. Liz is home now, and we're praying, baby, what do we do with this thing, right? Because remember, we don't know if this is serious or not. So I'm like, if we go to urgent care, and they can't find nothing, right? And then we got to go back to the hospital, and now we're a day behind. So I'm like, I don't think there's anything serious with me. We're not going to Bay State because that's a 10-hour wait to get in, if you're lucky. Let's go to Cooley Dickinson because she told me that there was a little bit, the wait was slow, they weren't very busy. Long story short, I get in there at 9, I get a bed right away. They cut me off from food, and then a couple hours later, they cut me off from drink because they were anticipating a procedure. Right away, they put me on pain medicine because the pain got worse and worse and worse, and then it was, this guy is giving me this test, this beautiful man, PA, physician's assistant. His wisdom, I'm telling you, is what is partially responsible for me being here today unharmed. But he did this procedure. I mean, he took this ultrasound like I was pregnant, and he stuck me with it for like 10 minutes, right into the area where it hurt. And I'm like, dude, are you trying to purify me? I think my gallbladder is okay. Right? So he finished that. I got an x-ray, so he comes back, he's like, all right, Nikita, you have a large growth on your right lung. That's when it like, okay, it's not gas. And we don't know what it is. Next thing is we're going to do CAT scan, but we're cutting you off from food and water because in all likelihood you're looking at a procedure or two. Okay, well. It was good to be home for a couple of days. So next thing, we take a CAT scan. Now the picture's starting to clear up a little bit. Now watch, this is the cool part this whole time. We're still in the dark about what's going on. He goes, all right, the CAT scan, clearly so. He goes like this, best news I heard in weeks. It's not cancer. Just doesn't look like it. I'm like, okay, well, let's cross that off the list. It's always a good thing to cross that off the list, right? So he goes, He goes, but it's in all likelihood, it's some kind of infection. That's the only thing that makes sense. It's infection. And so the problem is, this is after the CAT scan. The problem is we don't know where this infection is. We still can't tell from the CAT scan. We don't know if it's inside your lung. We don't know if it's outside your lung. And we don't know the nature of this thing. And he's like, here's the bad news. We can't help you here. You need a specialist. I'm like, wow, this is really bad. He goes, the worst news I have for you is transfers are really a bad deal right now. Hospitals are busy. They're not taking transfers. My roommate waited 7 days. He goes, it could be days. You could be going to Worcester. You could be going to Boston. You could be going to New York. We just don't know. I'm going to try, but you got to sign this paper. I said, Doc, what do you think is the best shot for me to get better? He goes, sign this paper. I can't help you. So I signed the paperwork. You all prayed. You're all praying. Come on. Within 2 hours, he comes in. I got good news for you. You got accepted at MGH. Now, I know a little bit about MGH. I've been there before. It's the best hospital in the world. What I didn't know, my sister had to tell me, is that they specialize in COVID complication treatment. So, secularly speaking, I bet you they took my case because they looked at the file and how weird it was, and they said, hey, we need to learn from this guy. Let's get him in here. Right? So I'm happy now. I'm excited. Hey, finally we got an answer. I'm over the fact I'm at the hospital again. Let's do this thing. So at this point, I'm starving. So he comes in again, the PA. He goes, listen, we got another problem. I said, okay. I mean, we've had plenty, so let's keep at it, right? He goes, apparently there's an ambulance shortage in Massachusetts. Now, we don't think about that, but apparently there is. So he goes, these guys can come in 2 hours. They can come in 24 hours. Do you know how long we waited for the ambulance? 20 hours. Now, all of you were texting me, and my brother-in-law, whom I love dearly, he's my man, he's getting upset. He's like, I'm about to get into my Uber, and I'm taking you there. I said, Serge, stay home because they won't let you take me. They'll lock you up, man. That's not how it works, right? But one person texted me this, divine delay. Now I'm like, oh, divine delay. You know how hungry I am, right? But after a while, the hunger, because y'all prayed. Now, I can't explain it. Dad, you and I with food. How long can we go out without food? A couple of hours? Not even really, right? So for me not to be hungry after 20 hours, God's saying something. Not hungry. I wasn't hungry. It wasn't an effort. I was thirsty, though. I was thirsty. But I wasn't hungry. Okay? 20 hours, they come through the door. I take a picture of them. I missed it. My wife caught it. Her name is Destiny. The girl that came in, name is Destiny. 20 hours, remember that. So finally I get on my chariot. That's what we called it, chariot. On my way to see elves and the angels. These people at that hospital at MGH, I'm telling you, they look like elves from Lord of the Rings. I'm serious. They're perfect people. They're perfect. They probably never had a bee in their life. Like, everything about them is this efficient proficiency. They're just like this, like from the movie. Like, they're just unbelievable. I call them the Angel Squad. Every time they come in, oh, Angel Squad is here. So anyways, Kayla, you're up. Oh, let's put some pictures up on the board. So I get in my room. Let's go. Now we get into the good stuff. So I walk in on this, right? I've been staring at a wall in my other room. I walk in on this, and I'm like, ooh, that's nice. I can deal with a lung thing in here. Just flip through it real quick. Just flip through it. So those are the tubes that they eventually put in me. I'll talk about that. Disgusting. I had 400 cc's of liquid taken out of me. Next. All right. So as she does that, so I sit down. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Okay, important, watch this. That's my room number. Hold it there for a second. Dr. Lana Schumacher. She's the best in the world, best thoracic surgeon in the world. My room number, and remember this. Is it A or B? Is it A? Better A? Better, oh, no. A has a story, too. I'll get to it. Better A, better B. 1922B. All right, put it back on the view. So doctor comes in, tall dude, elf, somewhere from Rivendell. Comes in and he goes, really just like work, right? Comes in, he goes, hi, Nikita. You have a growth in your right lung. We're pretty sure it's infection. The problem is we don't know where it is. We don't know if it's on the inside of the lung. We don't know if it's on the outside of the lung. And it also could be in between the tissues of the lung. You also have an air buildup around your lung. What we need to do is we're going to put a tube in you. That procedure will happen either tomorrow or Tuesday. That will tell us what this thing is. And from there, you will probably get lung surgery to remove this air pocket from your lungs. I'm going to put you on the diet. This is 30 hours. Okay, I was so happy. He's like, I'm putting you back on the diet until 12 o'clock. Any questions? I'm like, no, just give me the food. He leaves. Next day, same thing. No food until 3:30, right? Then the doctor comes in. One of the angels comes in and goes, sorry, couldn't get you the room. Couldn't get the procedure scheduled. Putting you back on the diet. I'm like, all right, I'm back on the diet. So I'm eating, just waiting. And I'm texting people all these pictures. Right? I'll get to it. I'll tell you the story, the medical part. So then, the next day, another doctor comes in and she goes, Nikita, I got good news for you. We scheduled your procedure for 3:30. Now, I about jumped through the roof, like hugged them all. I'm like, yes, finally we got a procedure, right? So that morning, and they've been pumping me with antibiotics, like nonstop, right? So by then, they brought in a roommate. His name is Wayne. Wayne got sick, really sick, on the same exact date that I got sick, called out of work. That was the first day that I said, I'm sick. I can't go nowhere. November 4th, same day. He waited a bunch for a first transfer, so he's literally waited like 20 days to get a transfer. It was more like 7 to get to MGH, but he waited. Before that, he also waited to get another transfer. So they rolled him in. He's my size, supposed to be, but he's 290 pounds. And I met him after he came out of the surgery when they removed blood clots. Now, more on Wayne in a little bit. Here's what happened. So I'm laying there, and I'm excited about my procedure. And I'm going around the hallway. I actually talked to Dale that night. And I'm doing jumping jacks. And I said to my nurse, this is now in the morning, 5 o'clock. I said to my nurse, I think you guys healed me with these antibiotics. I can go home today. I'm telling you, I feel great. This is the best I felt in like 25 days. I mean, you guys got to let me out. You got to take a scan and find out what's going on in my lungs. I think you guys got this thing, right? I'm all excited, delirious. Angels come in. They go, how you doing? I said, I'm doing great. Like, honestly, you guys got to hear me out. Here's my best impersonation of being a doctor like you. We didn't know what this thing was, right? We always thought it was infection. Well, you just blasted me with so many antibiotics. I'm just like, I'm completely full of it. I think you guys killed it. I think it's gone. I think it's gone. We didn't know what's going on. The guy, the blonde guy, the main guy, he goes, Nikita, we know what's wrong with you. You have a huge growth on your right lung, and we're going to put a tube in you to drain it. I'm like, oh, all right. So I'm laying back. They come back 3 minutes later. And before that, I'm telling Wayne, I said, Wayne, I'm actually having a hard time with food today. I got to wait till 3 o'clock, 3:30 again without food, man. That's going to suck. 3 minutes later, the doctors come in. It was like Dr. House episode. They come in threes. Good news. You're up. You're first up. We moved the procedure. We got him to punt everybody. You're going in. I'm like, woo! I'm like running around doing I'm high-stepping through the room. Now, Wayne and I hit it off, so he's happy for me. He's like, yeah, man, let's go. I'm like, yeah, let's go. I am so happy they didn't tell me what this was going to be all about, right? Now, I don't know. Look, I don't know if they didn't put me under anesthesia because they were anticipating another procedure and they didn't want to stack it. I have no idea. I don't know if that's just how they do it. I don't know if they poked me in a special spot, but it was not fun. So I get into this thing, and they have this CT scan machine, and there's a team. You got the nurse right there with the medicine. You got a bunch of folks kind of manning the whole thing, assistants. You got the surgeon comes in. This was probably the darkest part of the whole experience for me. So he gives me this sheet of paper. He goes, I can puncture your lung. It might not work. I could hurt your kidney. You know what I'm saying. I can hurt you. I can hurt all this stuff. And of course, there's always a chance of infection. And I could feel the darkness just go like, trying to get in me. And then it hit me. Brother Danny's been through so much worse, and he's okay. And I signed it. That was it. I was done. I'm ready. So they strapped me to the side like this. And I'm like this in like fetal position. Got my IV. So they're like, okay, we're going to give you a little fentanyl to take the edge off, and we're going to give you a couple of shots to numb it down where we're going to poke you. I'm like, oh man, I better buckle. I'm like, I just want to see my wife. I just want to see my wife. And I tried not to move because lungs move. I want them to get it right. And the whole time, I just want to see my wife. I just want to see my wife. I'm like, Rebecca, do you mind if I get a little bit more fentanyl? Do you think the surgeon cared? No, because they have an infection protocol probably, right? So he's like, Nikita, this is gonna hurt. I go, I just want to see my wife. I just want to see my wife. So the fourth or fifth time he pokes me, he goes, this is gonna hurt. I'm like, yeah, doc, do it, do it, do it. He goes, Nikita, I'm so sorry. I'm saying, no, don't apologize. I just want to see my wife. I just want to see my wife. This is gonna hurt, Nikita. Yeah, do it, do it. So like that got me through. I went into stellar, right? So they finished the procedure. I don't know why you had to poke me 20 times for 2 things, but whatever. So they're like, okay, Nikita, we got to move you through the bed. Fentanyl wore off. They start moving me. The worst pain I've ever felt in my life, ever. Worse than Friday night, right? And they try to move me. I hit his hand. I said, Doc, listen. What I'm feeling now is worse than what you were doing to me. So he goes, well, you shouldn't feel any pain. I said, I'm just telling you, don't touch me until you sort this. So he looks at the imaging. He goes, oh, I know what happened. So on the imaging, they could see that my lung popped back out. So I get back. I got these things. You guys saw them. They're all stacked in my butt. I can't go nowhere. The nurses don't let me do nothing. They don't let me touch it, right? Because this equipment is special, and I'm not supposed to handle it. The doctors come in. The angels come back in, and they go like this. They go, oh, they gave you old ones. That's okay. I'm like, okay, but like as long as they work, right? I mean, it's okay. It's like, oh yeah, those are like old ones. Okay. So they're looking for air, right? So apparently air's bad, which means my lung's leaking. So I'm the whole time I'm looking for air. Now I don't know where to look. So one night I get up and there's air. That was the worst night. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh my God, there's air in my tube. So I'm freaking out. And I text Dale. I said, Dale, I'm probably just a moron. But I have air in the tube, but I know that's not good. So next thing they come in and they go, the doctors look at it, and they're like, you're doing good. We might take your tubes out. I'm like, oh, that'll be good. They didn't take them out. And then Thursday night, now I'm praying. This whole time, I have no idea what's going on. I don't know if they're going to do surgery on me. I have no clue. All I know is these tubes are wearing me out. I can't get comfortable in my bed. I miss my family. I broke down that Wednesday night. I cried. I said, I just want to come home. You guys got to pray for me. I just want to come home. Right? So I have no idea what's going on. But that night, I realized something. That and my plate, 1922. And I said, I've been texting people all these pictures about this view. And it hit me. I missed it. I missed what God is saying. I'm going to run through it real quick. But before that, I'll just finish the story, what happened. So that night, another doctor, another elf comes in. And they basically put my mind at ease. He said, the radiology team came in. They're the ones that did the surgery. They come in earlier on Thursday. And I'm praying at this point, God, if everything works out, maybe I'll go home Sunday. Right? Well, maybe Saturday if everything works out. Maybe, if they don't need to do surgery. So they come in and they look at the tubes. They go, the tubes look good. That was such pressure off my. He's like, you did the work. And they left. I'm like, I don't know what that means, but I think that's a good thing. And that day, that evening, one doctor, one resident lady, blonde lady, she comes in, and they never sat down, but she sat down and she gave me the diagnosis. She goes, Nikita, there's nothing growing on this thing. Listen to me. There's nothing growing on this thing. It's just some kind of dirty liquid. And she said, it's just one of those weird complications from COVID that we've been seeing so many of lately. And all I had was one question for her. I said, do I need lung surgery or not? And she goes, absolutely not. I was like, thank God. Because you all were praying, checking on me every day. That night, another doctor comes in, and she doesn't even talk to me. She looks at the old boxes. She looks like this, and she goes, the tubes look good. And she looked at me, and it was like magic. You're going home. And she left. I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. Oh. So that morning, and I'm telling you, I'm thinking, okay, Saturday, I'm coming home Saturday. This is great, right? It's happening. In the morning on Friday, the blonde doctor that made fun of me comes in. He looks at me. I'm sitting in the chair. He's like, your CAT scan looks great. We're kicking you out. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm going home Saturday. Guys, I got thrust out of there. Like, I got kicked out of that hospital. They didn't want me there no more. It was great. So anyway, let's do this now. How long did it take me to wait for the ambulance? 20 hours. What's 20? Expectation. Season. So I'm blown away by the view. I'm texting everybody. Every nurse in this place, when they come in, this is what they said to me. Every single one. They said one or the other. They either said you have the best view or you have a great view. Vision. I'm in room 1922B. 19 is for the floor. Come on, you guys got to hear this. 19th floor. Many rooms. 19, COVID-19, COVID realm. We are all in the COVID realm, including me in 1922B. Room 22. What does 22 speak to you? What year is this today? What year is it? Come on, somebody. That's the easiest question I've ever asked from the pulpit. You guys can't give me an answer? So what's 22 then? Future. 22B, to be exact. The half that matters. The window into the future is this. You guys know what that is? Some of you might know. Where's my smart kids? You know what that is, Hannah, don't you? That's Cambridge. I can hardly even see it's okay. Over that, this is where Good Will Hunting was filmed, but that's Cambridge. Do you know what's in Cambridge? Harvard, MIT, Kendall Square is known as the most innovative square on the planet because of all the innovation and startups that came out of it. Let me paraphrase. The world's best. Sultans, kings' kids, princes, duchesses flow in and out of that tiny little town every single year. The world's best. And I'm not going to go to the scriptures to explain what the world's riches are. It's their kids. They go through that little town. Over the Charles River Divide is all the world's best. That's the view. Watch this. Over the Charles River Divide is Harvard and MIT, literally the world's best. God is showing us the future. Yeah. It's the best. It's the best. It's the best. And get this. We're already in the room. Even though we're in a COVID floor, we're in the room because we're a people of faith. I was not in that room alone. If I was in that room alone, somebody else would be doing the service, and then we'd probably be doing a funeral somewhere. But you were in the room. I was on Lazy River the whole time. Room 22B, the half that matters is better. Like Papa always said to us, your best days are not behind you, they're before you. Do you know what Dr. Schumacher's name is? Her first name, Lana. It's from Russian, Svetlana, and it means light. Now watch this. You know the name of the ambulance person, Destiny. It's God. I did nothing. He's taking people into himself. That's what he's saying. All the best is ahead. I waited 20 hours for Destiny to take me there. The war is over. Get yourself in room 22, which is faith, believe. Just get with Jesus. If you don't know Jesus, listen. I don't care what prayer you say, sinner's prayer or not. If you don't know Jesus, here's the cool thing about Jesus. He's real. Just ask him. He'll help you. Just ask him. In your own words, just ask him to help him. Just don't resist the Holy Spirit. Just let him talk to you. He will. He's better. He's better than the elves and the angels at Mass General. He's better. I could have been waiting for days like Wayne. Watch this. I could have been sent to 100 different hospitals. The PA who made me sign a transfer warned me about it. Bad news. The guy next to me waited 7 days. But get this, even that matters because we're going to get to him next. On the perfect 8th day, he met a man. Oh. But I waited 20 hours for Destiny to take me to that room, on that floor, with that view, to see Dr. Light. You following? You like this? Because it's changed my life. Now, Wayne's story. Got to talk about Wayne. Because I asked the Lord. When I got this, I got goosebumps, waterfalls. But I said, what about him? We were sick on the same day. What's going on with him? I want to know. You got to tell me. So we hit it off with Wayne. We started encouraging right away. And you know me, I talk. I love people. I got to know. I got to hug it out, right? So I started talking to him. I started asking him what happened. He tells me, and we sort of hit it off. And he's telling me, he goes, yeah. So he had his, he had clots taken out. I was like, yeah, I'm probably going to be wearing these socks. And I said, Wayne, let me see your face. So I ripped the divide. I go, can I pray with you? He goes, no, I don't do that. I don't believe in that. I'm very private. I'm like, fine. Let me tell you a story then. I said, when I was 18, I got into a bad fight. It was 4-on-20. I'm not a very good fighter. And one of us bailed. So it was 3-on-20. They broke all my orbits. I wound up at Mass General Hospital. And they said, in 30 days, when all your swelling subsides, you're going to come in here, and we're going to do a procedure that's very dangerous. Because if we don't, listen to me, the orbits, what's going to happen, your orbits are so busted that your eye muscles that direct where you look are going to be stuck, and you will not be able to direct where you look. I'm telling him this story. 30 days come by. I'm 18, so I'm of age. My mom's not there with me. My dad's not there with me. I come in. I mean, I really don't have anything to feel. I'm mostly humbled at what happened to me. And there was this tall Indian doctor, another elf, and he had this almost like a bar type table. And there's red ink paper everywhere. Like, you got to sign all this paperwork. So this is the day of the procedure, so I'm signing it all. Okay, you might lose your eye. We might poke your brain. You might not wake up. 18 years old, signing all this stuff. Done. The guy picks it up, goes into his little corner in the table, and I'm sitting there literally like this is what I felt like, just sitting there like a lamb. Like, I wasn't even Christian. And this is what happened. He looks at me like this. This is what he's doing. This is his table. He's like this. I'm canceling the procedure. You don't need it. Go home, kid. And I walk out of there. I walk out of MGH. Do you know what I see?
You'll get that.
The vision's been the same. We just haven't been able to hear it. It's all the best. That's what God has in his heart. It's all the best. So I tell him the story. He's like, this is what I told him. I said, Wayne, don't do it a lifetime at a time. Just do it 1 hour at a time. He's like, yeah, that's cool. That's cool. So then they released me, and we hit it off. We're cheering. This guy lost 50 pounds. So he had fluid in his legs and feet. I'll get to that in a moment. He had fluid in his legs and feet. Blew up to 290 pounds. And they took out, he lost 50 pounds by the time I got out of there. And we're just encouraged. He's so happy. I overheard him talk to the nurses. He goes, man, this kid's special. I'm like, you're talking about the Holy Ghost, buddy. I'm not special. I just want to go home. Right? So I'm sitting there, and I'm just waiting for my sister at this point. And we're both quiet, and I don't even know if he's sleeping. And it just came out of my chest. I'm like, Wayne, you going to let me pray for you or what? And he goes, absolutely, get over here. So I come over there, I grab this hand, man, I'm telling you guys, I've poured such a love prayer over this guy. He's shaking. He's shaking. There's power coming out of me. I'm like, this is amazing, right? So I blessed him. Watch this. Watch this. You blessed him. This is so cool. This is what happened to Wayne. He went to work. He works for Coca-Cola, driving. On his last stop, his hatch hit his head. Come on. Hit his head. He fell down. Shook it off, went home. Next day, fluid buildup. Waited to get operated on. Dirty fluid. He hit his head, and he couldn't move because he had dirty fluid in his legs and his feet, and he couldn't walk the walk. Are you hearing this yet? He hit his head. That's the traditions of men. He's in 19A. The divider prevents him from seeing the vision, and he can't walk because he's got dirty water in his feet and his legs. And now what do I got? I had dirty water in my lung, my right lung. Right or wrong? Better A, better B. My lung. You know what that speaks of? Here's the final piece of that. The diagnosis was literally this: COVID sucks. That's what she said. You have dirty water in your lungs. Here's what's going on. Dirty water on the outside of the lung that was compressing my lung, destroying me, making it difficult to breathe. Worship. Lungs speak of worship. We worship him to our very last breath. You want me to prove it to you? Watch how cool the word is, how amazing God is. Psalm 156. Do you realize that is literally the last scripture in Psalms? And this is what it says: let everything that has breath praise the Lord. Praise ye the Lord. Literally the last verse of the Bible. Long speak of the... That's what's killing and preventing God's people from entering into the vision. Dirty water in the right or wrong, good or evil, from COVID. The world's condition, the 19th floor. Remember, we're all on the 19th floor. Dirty water, a dirty conscience. If the devil can stay there, we stay in the hospital. But the effectual love of the saints and the unmatched skill of Dr. Light got the man out to his family, which is pure conscience. 1 Corinthians 3:9, true co-laboring with the Lord. See, God has all the time in the world and is long-suffering to us, Lord, not willing that any should perish, but we don't have all the time in the world. With all our medicine, maybe we get 100 years, and we still have all our marbles, right? Psalm 145, the Lord is slow to anger and abandoning in loving devotion, forgiving iniquity and transgression, yet he will by no means leave the guilty unpunished. Again, don't fool yourself. And get this, my people are destroyed because they don't know me. He made it so simple. You know how great his mercy is? This is what I shared before that. If you give somebody a drink because he's a Christian, you don't lose your reward. But there's so much more. It's not about avoiding hell. The bottom line is, for whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. There's a big difference between going to church and feeling his presence. Like, oh wow, you're here now. Big difference. Don't keep your soul from the only one who really knows you. Ask him to be in your life today. Don't worry about prayer. Whatever you give, he will give it back to you, which will make you forget about all you gave. Oh my God, that's so true. Now listen to this. Watch this, watch this. It wouldn't be God, right? This isn't a magic trick. Watch how crazy. What I'm saying, right? This is the thing. There's a little bit of doubt. Oh, well, right? Destiny took me to that floor, to that room, with that view, to see Dr. Light. Oh, that's cute. That's a cute poem. But there's doubt. There's doubt. And some of you might be doubting that God is really saying this. And I'm going to remind you, that was Pharaoh's attitude. He went through 10 plagues, and he still didn't believe. Well, God's going to make it very simple for us. Watch this. Watch this. The day I got back, we went shopping for a love seat. My wife and I want a love seat. We never had one. We could never get comfortable just hanging out together. We were looking for a love seat. We went to Bob's Furniture. We went in the basement. We didn't find anything in the basement. Get this. There's nothing in the basement for you guys. There's nothing in the basement. We went up the staircase all the way up, and the chair we ended up buying was the first chair that was facing us. We were greeted by, you ready for this? Lana. So I say, oh, wow, you're Lana. The first thing she does is corrects me. She goes, no, it's Svetlana. It's Russian. I said, don't worry, girl. I know all about Lana. That's cool, right? So I had somewhere to be. I wanted to go see Isaac sing at the Holyoke Center. But they had a glitch in the system, divine delay. So we're getting to know each other a little bit. Now, there are odds that are bad. There are odds that are good. I would say it's pretty medium, average odds for you to run into a person that has the same birthday as you. Right? Like May 25th, I have a birthday sister. Hopefully she's listening. Right? So it's not that odd. But it is, pay attention, odds. When Lana, you know how many Lanas I know in my life? Take a guess. Two. I know 2 Lanas in my life. When we're sitting there and she tells you that her husband has the exact same birthday as you do. Now those odds should make you pay attention and maybe even shout and rejoice in the name of the Lord and magnify his name. Because those odds are godly odds. So we're talking, I told her the story, and And she said this to me. She's like, maybe, because I told her about Wayne and how he prayed. She's like, maybe you were there to save Wayne. I said, Lana, you said it, not me. But it's not just about Wayne. The whole point is the people in 22B are going to get their lungs drained from all this carnal thinking so they can enter into the vision of God and deliver Wayne, the creation of God. I know I'm long, but this is different. I'll never be like this again. All right? One last thought. Ronnie, this is what I shared with you yesterday. It's powerful. You guys got to hear this. I shared this with my people at work, and they blessed me so much. She's like, oh my God, I had goosebumps. I had goosebumps, and this is what happened. Remember what I said on November 1st? Do you know one of the complications with COVID? The biggest one is fatigue. It wipes you out. Now, I came home, and I am amped. I sleep 2 hours a night. The rest of the night, I'm putting my notes together, taking care of the house stuff because we were behind. Just wide awake. 2 hours, up. All week long. So I'm thinking, hey, this is just complications and part of healing from COVID, right? I'm amped up. But then I started thinking, I said, wait a minute. The complication's supposed to be fatigue. And this is middle of the night, I'm about to sit my butt down in the chair, and it hit me. You think COVID's doing this to you? I'm like, oh my God. And it started clicking together. You guys, some of you may remember, when I got baptized in the horse thing, Ronnie prayed a prayer over me and prophesied, and this is what he said to me. Remember what 20 is? This is what he prayed. He said, Lord, give this man no rest. That 2 hours to him would be as though he slept for 10. That his first season will be a season on complete knees. And then you'll speak something else. And then you speak something else. That was 20 years ago. And for 20 years, I've been trying to figure out, Ron, how long that season's going to be. And this year, right before COVID hit, the Lord whispered something in my heart. He said, you've been through a season of abasement, complete knees, American abasement. Like, God took care of Joseph in prison. You understand what I'm saying? It's not an issue for me, right? Now I'm going to take you through a season of abundance. It's God. I didn't do nothing. You all prayed for me. I win, you win, right? I said, my heart, my tongue is as a pen of a ready writer. I can't sit still. Liz had to talk to me. She goes, I can't take you like this. Like, I'm like Tasmanian devil running around crazy, right? And here I am thinking it's COVID. But remember what I said to my boss? One person can change my mind. My other boss, I said, God is going to have to come down my house and talk to me. And this is what, as my butt's going down on the chair, I'm getting this. You think COVID's doing this to you? I'm doing this to you. I heard what you said, and I took your challenge, and I've come down.